welcome everybody. I've got the pleasure to introduce this session. I'm Pierre-Antoine Balu. As you can hear, I'm French with my strong French accent. I am a partner at PwC. I'm the global leader for cultural leadership and change, and I also lead what we call organizational strategy for PwC. So I represent the leadership of the firm here to introduce this session and to tell you that we are very glad to host you today. I will, in a few minutes, ask James to present the results of our barometer. I think we are very glad to have this study released. There are some very interesting insights. The format today is to have this presentation, and then, of course, to have some discussions and debates at each table. We will have a quick, presentation from my side as well. A few thoughts, more on the implication of what AI means for organizations, because it's my expertise. As a matter of fact, I'm not an AI expert. There's more knowledge in the room today on that field. But what are the implications when you try to scale up, AI in an organization, and what are the leadership implications, for instance? So, and then, the idea is to have, discussions and to have fruitful discussions at each table. So that's the format. James, can you come over, please? Can you hear me if I stand here? Yes, brilliant. Let's do that. We're not streaming it. This is a study we published 2 weeks ago at Intertech in Paris. Hopefully it will be useful food for thought for the conversations that you're going to have. We looked at 500 million job adverts, so 500 million online job adverts across 15 countries over the last decade or so, to try and understand what is happening in the labour market and to what extent can we learn from that data around the impact of AI on productivity, wages, hiring, and other kind of labour skills change, other labour market factors. It's a longitudinal correlational study, so it is not going to tell you everything that we'll not be able to say from these patterns. AI is definitely causing this. The good news for the academics in the room is that the conclusion for every academic paper I've ever seen applies here too. More research is needed, but hopefully it's useful food for thought. And I'm going to talk just briefly about some of the headline findings. The full study is online. One other little caveat: it's technically a study of vacancies or job ads, not jobs, but other research shows that job ads are a good proxy for jobs, unsurprisingly. So I'm going to talk about jobs. And the other thing to say is the countries looked at are the countries where online job ad data was available, which means it skews towards more developed countries. So that's just worth bearing in mind. So 3 questions in this presentation, only about 5 slides of data. First one, I think everyone knows the answer to before I go on to the next slide. Are AI jobs growing? Yes, they are. So this shows the number of postings that are AI specialist jobs and all jobs. AI specialist jobs are job ads that had one of around 270 terms that we think mean that job requires AI skills. So LLM is that. And you can see AI jobs growing more rapidly than all jobs, roughly 3 times faster than all jobs. There's obviously a very small share of jobs. More interesting, which sectors are AI jobs growing in? This probably confirms your priors. They're growing in the places where you would expect them to grow. So information and communication, professional services, financial services are the 3 sectors where the share of jobs that relate to AI is growing most rapidly. Now, it's useful sometimes to confirm what you think already, because it means you can rely on what you think a little bit more. So it's growing where we would expect. And then this is interesting. This is the wage premium. So we compared equivalent jobs with and without AI skills in the job listing. And if you compare 2 equivalent jobs, the one that says something to do with AI in it has on average a 25% pay bump over the one that doesn't require an AI skill. And that varies by country and it varies by sector. So in the full report, there's a much more complicated table, but headline, significant increases in wages for people, many of you in this room, who have AI skills, but unfortunately not. Yeah, as I said earlier. And then where are these AI jobs growing? Singapore is off the chart. Not surprising to us, Singapore does not fit on this chart. This would all look like a mess out here. But the countries are ranked. The proportion of AI-related skills in the labour market in each country is ranked in the same order as, pretty much the same order as the IMF's AI preparedness rankings. And that's not totally endogenous, because the IMF's preparedness ranking, for example, which includes a pillar around AI ethics and AI regulation, which is not obviously correlated with jobs. You might even thought might be negatively correlated with jobs, where it doesn't seem to be. It seems like this is a good measure for the extent to which jobs are appearing in the labour market. Is it because the country's policies, as reflected in the AI ranking, have enabled a more robust AI ecosystem to emerge? Or maybe it's the other way around, but because there's loads of AI jobs, the government thought, well, we'll better regulate this and sort it out. But you can't tell. It's unlikely to be entirely one or the other, but the correlation is strong. So AI jobs are growing. They're growing where you would expect, which gives us some confidence in our sort of initial views around what the impact of AI might be on the second question. So what does it mean for the economy? I'll just pick out two pieces of data here. First is around productivity. So we've used the OECD's productivity measures, which are about a year old, and we've plotted that against AI exposure. So AI exposures are measured by Advocacy, which looks at the extent to which an industry is likely to be exposed to AI impacting the ways that industry is delivered. So if you're a masseur, not very likely to be impacted by AI. If you're a Python coder, highly likely to be impacted by AI. So masseurs over here, Python coders over here. And what we find is that productivity is growing faster in those sectors that are most exposed to AI. The AI doing the work, not doing all the work, probably, but it may well be doing some of the work. But we're seeing 4.8 times, and 5 times higher productivity growth in those sectors that are also those sectors that are slightly using AI. 0.9 to 0.3. So more research needed, but there's a sign that maybe AI is delivering productivity gains, and most of this data set ends productivity data ends about a year ago, is before the Gen AI boom, which you would think might further increase productivity. So there's some signs in the sense that productivity. What about jobs? Generally, anyone who walks past the lake, if you kept walking along the side of the lake here, there's a series of cartoons along the side of the lake. And there's like, it says like the era of IA, and one of them is a picture of a man with a robot at a patent office looking at a robot with a little man at a patent office, or a robot walking past and tossing some money to a man beggar on the floor. They are all unremittingly negative about AI. It's like I walked past it, I was really slightly strange in that they're all so negative. When we do research with workers, we've got another study coming out next year, we find that the labour force is more optimistic and pessimistic about AI. And what we find in this data is that we're finding that job growth is significantly higher in sectors that are not highly exposed to AI, but it's still robust in those sectors that are exposed to AI. So we've got in these exposed sectors on this side, job growth is positive. Really, job ad growth is negative, but it's good property. And that is important, particularly when you think about the countries that we've used for this study. The countries that are in the study, in the data availability, are countries that tend to have pretty tight labour markets at the moment, ageing populations, and political challenges around immigration as a substitute for growing domestic labour. So there are signs here that job growth is positive and that it is potentially easing labour market challenges, not merely creating major labour market disruption. what will happen in the future, really good topic for conversation around the table, but it doesn't justify those cartoons around. Fine at macro level, one final data point. What does it mean for an individual worker? It's perfectly possible that AI is next good for GDP, good for growth, good for productivity, but there are millions of users. So what can we say about what it means for individual work? So one final slide. This slide has a lot of dots on it, but it's showing the rate of skill change. So you take a job at one time, the same job we go 4 years later, based on job coding, and then looked at whether the skills in that later time point are the same as the ones that were at the earlier time point, or if they've changed, how much have they changed, based on the vision. And what you can see is that it is AI exposed jobs. The rate of skill change is about 25% faster, higher, about 25% higher. So in industries where AI is actually having an effect, we've seen that it is the jobs do exist in those industries we expected at the beginning. The rate at which workers need to acquire new skills has accelerated. And we know from lots of works that have done over that time, but we're not brilliant at equipping people with new skills. And it's particularly challenging to equip people with weak skills with better skills. People are already highly skilled, don't want another course, learn and work. They tend to do a better job there. But people with lack skills as countries are not as good at asking. So that's the data from this study. 500 million job ads, correlational, but it shows AI jobs are growing kind of where you would expect geographically in our sector. There was an association between AI exposure and productivity. They are jobs, there are wage premiums, jobs are still growing, but growing less fast. If the individual worker skill challenge, it becomes even more acute than it was prior to the pandemic. So I'll pause there and then Pierre, so a few more words, and then we'll have conversations around each of these tables to discuss what we're doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we will have a session of Q&A, of course, and you've got all the detail of the report. I think there are some interesting insights. I mean, as I said, I'm not an expert in AI, but what I'm doing, I work with CEOs on how they embed and scale up, the AI in their organizations. So what are the implications? And as well as part of the leadership team of PwC, as you noticed, professional services are one of the first, professionals, to be impacted by AI. So of course, we invest a lot. We have announced that we will invest $1 billion over 3 years. And yesterday we announced that we're going to be one of the first contractors and partner of OpenAI. We will provide 100,000 of our staff and employees to have access to OpenAI. So I think it's a big investment. So of course, that is presenting a lot of challenges, but it's also very exciting to be part of Factoring. So first of all, I think what we observe from the discussion we have with most of our clients, the question is not that much that if whether AI is a threat for jobs. I think that the perspective of many CEOs is that it will replace tasks and not jobs, and there is a confusion between these two. I think it's important to highlight that, and that of course some tasks will be augmented or would be automatized through AI. And the question is, how do you segregate high value tasks from expertise tasks that you want to give human led? So that's the first question. I think when we look at that, we think that AI should stand as a amplified innovation. I think the idea is to make sure that you free up some space, time, and can create new values. So AI should be something a little bit different in that regard. In terms of leadership implications, I think I had a conversation with CEOs, and he told me that I need to be an example myself, and the strategy I have is to be like a tea bag, because I want to be diffusing and try to show instead of forcing people to say, okay, you need to comply, this is an obligation and so on. If you don't do that, there's a risk for you. It's more, being an example and showing, through leadership that you can, test new ideas, give permission to experiment. But also, try to be focused. I think, one of the risks that we observe on the market is that there is a risk of losing yourself or saturation. One of the specificities of AI, I believe, is that, it's a very much bottom-up approach rather than a very top-down cascading approach. When you look at AET programs, usually, it's very centralized and you try to cascade that. AI is different. People are experimenting and, you got some ideas popping up, from the field. But when you got too many ideas, then you are swallowed. So, how do you do that? How do you do this triage? How do you filter that? How do you make sure that you answer key questions or strategic questions for the organization? So you got to create this kind of conducive environment in order to make sure that we are solving problems, but also try to make sure that there is a kind of energy dispersion avoidance. In what we do, I think it's important to mention that we try to focus on productivity, of course, but as well on quality. I think it's important to highlight that. For most of the investments we make, that to make sure that if I take, for example, knowledge management as a professional services, it's always a nightmare. It's been, I've been in this business for like 3 decades, roughly. We have always tried to, gather knowledge and get the expertise, make sure that it's available for everybody and so on. We believe that AI is a good opportunity to do that. It's the first breakthrough. So for us, it's a top priority. So I would like to close that and to maybe ask if you got some questions regarding your survey, the data and so on. James is here, and you've got some people from PwC in the room as well. So the idea is to have, a conversation. Please don't hesitate to ask. We've got a few minutes to do a Q&A, and then, we have a discussion around the tables. Thank you.